Nashville SC, BJ Callaghan has officially been hired and appointed as the second head coach in Nashville SC history. So wanted to jump on, chat a little bit about that real quick, just get into it. Talked a little bit about it on the U.S. game the other day. I've talked about it on a couple of the previous live streams, but while we were going, not fully lost my train of thought there. This is what's great about live streams. Just I can be talking and just suddenly not know what I'm saying. I just didn't want to get fully into it until we actually launched the what's going on here? Hang on. I'm testing out a new streaming. Hang on a second. I'm testing out a new streaming deal and it might not be working. Let me check out what's going on here. Wanted to try a new streaming software, but it does not appear. Let's see what we got here if I'm alive. This is bad hosting right here. Okay, we're good. We're good. All right, apologies for that. We are live in the brain has just died all of a sudden. Thanks for joining in. If you're with us, BJ Callaghan officially appointed as the second head coach in Nashville SC history. We kind of knew this was coming for a little bit of a while here. Tom Bokert, I believe, was the first one to report the news about 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. So it's pretty much confirmed then, and I think a lot of the speculation at that point in time was that it was most likely going to not be officially announced or not be made official until USA's Copa America run came to an end, which tragically happened Monday, so the timing makes sense. Crash out Copa America Monday, finalize all the details Tuesday, announce on Wednesday, which certainly would have liked to have had a better performance of the U.S. team in Copa America than what we got, because certainly it gives you a little bit of a bad steam of him coming in off that poor performance. Would have liked to have had him coming in. You'd like a stronger performance from the U.S. team before you're appointing a guy that you're taking from the U.S. team. Jake Thompson in the chat says new era has begun. German Rodri says this is going to be interesting. Jake Thompson, if Ajago doesn't start tonight over Burnbury, we riot. Yeah, we'll get a little into the match a little bit later here in a second. Did want to talk a little bit more about BJ Callaghan. I think, obviously, if you follow the channel, if you've, watched my comments, my content, I'm not going to dive into the tactics. I'm not some kind of, data analytics, big time, statistical person. I'm a vibes guy. I'm a fan. I watch the games. I kind of react off what I'm seeing on the pitch, on the field, and everything we've seen from BJ Callaghan, as an assistant, glowing reviews from the coaches he's worked with. Go check out Valaire, one of the top content creators for Nashville SC. He had a good breakdown on his channel. He also posted a clip on Twitter of Jim Curtin talking about BJ Callaghan when BJ was briefly serving as the interim U.S. men's coach last year. Although those are always kind of weird to kind of gauge, what you're really getting there, because what do you really get from that when, nobody's going to trash a guy like in that situation. They're not going to say, hey, Jim, what do you think about BJ Callaghan? And he's not going to go, well, he kind of was here as a favor to somebody else. But mostly really kind of sucked. You're not going to get that. So you can only take, the positive comments with a grain of salt. But the big question for him is obviously going to be the experience, as outside of the brief window being the interim head coach of the U.S. men's national team last year, has no real head coaching experience that I'm aware of. I have his Wikipedia pulled up here. Let me check it real quick, because I think even at the college level, I think he was primarily an assistant. Yeah. Ursinus Bears assistant. St. Joseph Hawks women assistant. Villanova Wildcats women assistant. Villanova Wildcats assistant. Philadelphia Union assistant. United States assistant. United States interim, and now Nashville SC first full-time head coach position he's ever had. So that's certainly the concern is that he is inexperienced. But I mean, I think we've seen from this last little stretch here with Roomba Muntali, um, decent run from him, decent run from the team. You don't necessarily, it's a good team to come into if you're lacking experience, I guess, because the veteran status of the team, kind of knowing who they are, knowing what they do, um, is a good environment to step into. It'll be a good time for him to kind of get his feet wet this season, and then next season, kind of, you know, really start to reshape the team and whatever his vision, whatever his idea of how we need to have our style of play be is. The thing I like most about him and the hire is, if you go back to when we fired Gary Smith, the live stream I did right after that, one of the things I said was, I think, we're not going to go out and get like a major high level coach. I thought, if we weren't going to get somebody like a Gio Varese, I probably mispronounced that name, or a Bruce Arena, who's experienced, in MLS, we were going to go younger. I wanted to get somebody that came from the Philadelphia Union pipeline, the Columbus Crew pipeline, these clubs that have, created a system that has sustained success throughout MLS without having to go out and get big time signings, big time purchases, because that's just obviously not going to be something Nashville SC does. They're not going to go out into the market and make a big splashy signing. It's going to be more the, finding the bargains, finding good deals, the Sam Surridge type signings, diamond in the roughs like Hani Mukhtar, bring in a high level U.S. player like Zimmerman. It's not going to be, hate to use the name all the time, but we're not going to go sign a Lionel Messi. We're not going to go sign a Chucky Lozano like San Diego just did. That's not going to be the market we follow. Atlanta, Columbus, Philadelphia, Cincinnati has started to kind of follow the mold a little bit there. I hate to give them credit for anything, but you got to credit where credit's due. That's the style of play. That's the style of system Nashville SC probably needs to mimic, probably needs to adapt to. And BJ Callaghan comes from Philadelphia. That was kind of his primary MLS experience before joining the U.S. men's national team. If you watch that clip that Jim Curtin talking about BJ Callaghan that I said Valera posted, one of the things he really highlighted was how critical BJ was in developing some of the young players, helping that kind of transition from academy to first team, helping them, take those next steps. So, Jake in the comments mentioned, Ajago potentially starting tonight. Ajago is a guy who could hugely benefit from BJ Callaghan coming in, because we've seen the raw talent, we've seen the hunger, we've seen the drive, we've seen the athleticism. Maybe not the finished product there, but BJ Callaghan with his track record, is he a guy who can come in and force Ajago and kind of mold him into that final finished product? It sounds like it from what we've heard about his track record, his previous experience. That was obviously something that wasn't happening with Gary Smith. We weren't seeing young players coming through, and it's kind of hard to fully put that on Gary because we're such a new team. The academy's barely been up and running. I saw somebody like talking about Malachi Jones when he came on for New York last week and was playing really well, and they were saying, like, how do we let this guy slip through our fingers? How come he wasn't on our academy? He was too old for our academy. By the time we started our academy, he was already further up the pipeline. I think we started with only like U13s, U15s, something like that, and kind of been working our way up as those kids have aged and progressed. We started playing older academy teams. Malachi was a little bit older than the group that we started with, so he was never in an age range where he could have played for the Nashville SC Academy. Wish he had, because he's looked, exceptional for New York. Fortunate, terrible injury for him the other night. Speedy recovery, thoughts and prayers to him, but I don't know that Gary Smith necessarily had the chance to bring any academy players through because they weren't, developed enough yet, the academy itself. But I think like a Rodrigo Pinheiro, you can maybe make the case, Ake Loba, younger players who were meant to be in the first team that didn't get chances because Gary preferred veteran people like, Chris, CJ Sapong, now Teal Bunbury. Just never seemed to favor bringing those young guys through, letting them make mistakes, letting them grow into the team, kind of taking the raw talent they had and forming them into something that, could do more. And that's supposedly what BJ's track record is. That's supposedly what he did really well at Philadelphia. He's apparently, helped in that regard with the U.S. men's national team as well. Also, a lot of credit has been given to him for some of the scouting in Philadelphia did and bringing players into the first team and into the academy. So hopefully we can see some of that in Nashville. It's interesting because he's not officially taking over till July 22nd. His first match in charge will be July 31st in the Leagues Cup, which Nashville SC just loves making major changes to the roster, to the squad, to the team for Leagues Cup. Last year, Sam Surridge came in during Leagues Cup. Now we're bringing in a new head coach during Leagues Cup, which it's a good time, because you want to win, you want to be successful, but it's kind of, if you don't do well, it's not the end of the world. It's a good time to kind of break things in, I guess. But kind of interesting. We've got 5 more games with Rubo Mentale. I think the players reacted well to them. You do kind of worry, do you get a little bit of lame duck syndrome where once the players now know BJ's coming in a month or 3 weeks, do they still perform the same level, the same effort that they have been now that they know Roomba's not going to be there much longer? Which I would assume he's staying on the staff. He'll be around, but I don't think our players are going to do that. I don't see us having the type of players that would kind of pack it in and kind of wait for the new guy to come in. So it's not too much of a concern. And I would imagine, even if he's not directly in the building, directly coaching, directly in the games, I would think there's going to be some communication starting between BJ and the current staff, kind of starting to share his ideas, share his thoughts, what he wants to see from the team. So not much to go off now. We've kind of talked through most of the BJ Callaghan stuff, obviously because we don't know. I mean, that's the thing. He's inexperienced. He's got no track record. I mean, the one thing you can say is the one time he's served as a head coach, the interim time for the U.S. team last year, he won a trophy. So his one minor little tiny stretch being a head coach, he won a trophy. So I guess you give him some credit for that. You hope for the best there. And we'll just see what happens. I'm going to jump into the chat real quick. We've got some comments that have come through. I want to hit. Has some coaching experience at the collegiate level, Villanova, an assistant for Philly. Yeah, I just went through it there, and he was actually an assistant at Villanova. I had thought he'd been a head coach in college, but, at least off of Wikipedia, everything he's ever done is said all assistant positions. S. Smith, hi. Nashville SC, let's go, new coach. Yep, let's go. German Rodriguez says, is the game at 5:30? Let's see. Let me pull it up here. Because Wednesday night, midweek game, we've got Columbus night. I'll talk a little bit about that kind of at the end of the stream. A little quick preview there. Yeah, 5:30 Central Time. So if you're in the Nashville kind of Central Time zone, it's going to be a 5:30 kickoff tonight, which is good. I guess that's good because I'm actually going up to Hendersonville, just north of Nashville, for their fireworks show tonight. So maybe I'll get to watch the match before we head up. That'll be a good timing for that at least. So let's see here. Joseph Remandali, hopefully I pronounced that right. He says, hopefully BJ can figure out how to best utilize Surridge. Kind of like him on the wing, but Teal isn't the option filling in up top. Yeah, I mean, I think that Surridge thing has worked really well because the things Teal does well are the things Sam did not do well as a striker. The hold-up play, the, winning balls in the air, letting the rest of the attack kind of get up the field. But that's all been a part of kind of the old Gary Smith. And, I think Roomba was still kind of, a little bit more progressive, but still kind of playing the same way where we sit a little deep, we play in transition. You need that target striker to hold the ball up and let the rest of the attack get up, let the counterattack start developing. We don't really know what BJ Callahan's style of play is going to be. Is it a more progressive, more pushed up the field, more direct, more pressing style of play? We don't know yet. So if that's the case, then, that's where Teal Bunbury definitely falls out because some of his strengths, wouldn't fit into that. He's not going to be a guy that you want up there if you're a more direct attacking team, if you're going to be pushing up the field, pressing more. So, and maybe Forrester, as he continues to develop, maybe he can do that role because he's big, he's physical, he's strong. He should have the attributes to be able to kind of be that more target number 9 that we've always tried to play. So, I think for the interim, for now, the current roster setup will probably continue to play the way we've been playing with Sam on the left, especially with Schaffelberg not available still. He's, congrats to Canada. At least some of CONCACAF represented well in Copa America. But with Sam, I think Sam will stay on the left at least until Schaffelberg comes back. We'll probably keep playing the way we do. Will Forrester start? Will it still be Teal? I'd be shocked to see Forrester get the start. I think there's, we saw the flashes when he came in against Mocha in the CONCACAF Champions Cup earlier this season. I think they're going to slow play it still. I think, Roomba's showed faith in him. He brought him in a little bit earlier in this last game than he did the first time he brought him on. I think the more likely thing, if we're not going to start Teal, would be to shift Sam back in the middle. We've seen Roomba has rotated the squad in these two match day weeks that we've had in the past, so I would expect to be some changes coming up against Columbus, just whether that's Sam shifting in the middle and, I don't know, Wheel coming back in as a winger, maybe Tyler shifts to the left, Wheel goes right, I don't know. I don't think we'll have Shaq Moore back tonight. That'd be crazy to get him back that quickly after playing Monday. Maybe I think we play Sunday this weekend, so that's probably enough time for him to get back to the team, get reintegrated into the squad there, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with the squad. Columbus, it's going to be a tough matchup tonight, obviously. How much does the squad, rotate, like I said, how much do they get, like, does this little BJ thing get in their ear? The little BJ thing, that was kind of a weird statement. Does that become a distraction for them with the match today? And, Columbus, no doubt one of the strongest teams in the league, defending champs. Stop and start kind of start for them, having been in a CONCACAF Champions Cup, but now that's over, so they're able to put full focus on MLS season, MLS campaign moving forward. It's going to be a tough game. I have a hard time seeing us getting a result in this one, so, I would expect Crew to win. And, in fact, it might be a situation where we rotate more heavily and look at Portland as a more winnable game of these two games in this week and kind of target that game as the game we attack more, especially if we're going to have Shaq Moore back, if we're going to have, maybe more players available. I believe Ben Wright reported this week that Randall Leal is back to full training. He's listed still as out for this game, so he's not back enough to play, but he could be potentially on the bench Sunday. If he's in full training now, a week and a half of full training under his belt going into Sunday, could see him pop up on the bench Sunday. So that could be the game. If you're picking and choosing your battles, sort of, you look at Columbus, you look at Portland. Portland's had a good season. They've been decent, really good attacking team. But if you're looking at the two games and kind of seeing which one do you want to go stronger at, I think Portland is maybe the one you probably target there. So we'll see what happens. You never know. MLS is kind of crazy. MLS is always hard to really predict anything because nothing stays the same. Anything can happen week to week in MLS. It's kind of one of the things that makes it fun as a league. German says, so many away games this month. Yeah, that's kind of the rough part of our second half of the season. We're coming into form a little bit. We're making a little bit slow move up the table. I think we're 7th now. If we can continue it, I could see us getting up as high as 5th or 4th, maybe even if things go really well. You never know. But yeah, the second half of our season is very backloaded with away matches. I think we only have, not counting League's Cup, I think we only have 5 home games left the entire season, which is crazy to be saying that at the start of July, that you only have 5 home games left between now and the season runs through October. Joseph says, yeah, wow, I forgot about Leo. Yeah, it's really easy when you got a dude who has played maybe 3 full matches in the last 2 years. It's easy for him to fall out of your mind, out of your spot. It's hard to remember. I probably only even thought of it because I saw Ben Wright's tweet that he was back in full training. I think he also reported that McNaughton is doing side field training, conditioning work. He's not back into the group, practicing with the team yet, but positive sign there as well. Hopefully getting back. Actually, I think Sam Surridge is listed as questionable tonight with some kind of injury or something like that, which could be a sign he might get rested tonight, might stick with Teal up top, or, Teal's played on the wing in the past. He played on the wing a lot for New England Revolution, so maybe Teal goes to the wing and Forrest comes in up top. I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what we do with kind of this weird midweek tough opponent and, some injuries there. What do we do? Do we prioritize the week? How does the team react to the news that they've got a new coach coming in? It'll be an interesting match to watch tonight for sure. Kind of with BJ coming in and with what we saw Monday night, I did want to touch a little bit on the U.S. men's national team stuff. Because it does, I think the excitement about BJ Callaghan, just judging by Nashville SC Twitter, when he was first reported as being the main candidate, there was a lot of excitement about him and kind of coming off the U.S.'s performance in Copa America, that kind of what's the expression, shine was off the rose? I don't think that's the expression, but I do think that kind of brought people back down to earth a little bit in terms of their excitement for BJ Callaghan coming in. But I don't how much you can put on him versus how much you can put on Greg versus how much you can put on the players. I don't know. I've been a pretty, I don't know if defender is the right word, but I've kind of not been one of the people that completely turned on Greg. I've never been full on Greg out or blamed him for the problems or the issues the team has had. I know what his level is as a coach. I don't, think he's one of the best coaches in the world or anything crazy like that, but I've never looked at the things people complained about him. It was kind of similar to Gary. Gary was a more extreme version of that than even Greg, but I think a lot of the issues, I think you're starting to look more, and Ben Wright, once again, I'll shout out the people who are doing good stuff out there in the content world. Ben Wright wrote a really good piece kind of looking at, is it the coaching or is it the players? Because I think there's been we've been sold a false bill of goods to a certain extent with the U.S. men's national team. This group, these players, I think they've been overhyped. They're good players, no doubt probably the most talented group we've ever had. But using terms like golden generation, acting like we are really into the mix of being the top teams in the world, and we're not there. I mean, it's just, I mean, you have to like kind of realistically look at a guy. I was listening to a podcast this morning where this one guy was just going all in on Greg, just like how he's wasting this talent. It's the best players we've ever had. They're playing in great teams around the world and good players. Once again, talent wise, probably the best group we've ever had. But if you got to peel back the curtain, they're not actually playing in the best teams in the world. You know, look at Uruguay. People were like, Buck Rising, local radio host here, was like, how did we lose to Uruguay? That's just stupid, not knowing how good Uruguay is. But, I mean, Uruguay has players that are at Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG. The best club we have a player represented at is like Juventus or AC Milan. And the guys that are at Juventus aren't really key players for Juventus. They're just kind of there. And look at what Italy did in the Euros. Italy is not exactly the quality of league it once was. So being a player at a top Italian team doesn't have the same marquee value it probably did, 10 years ago. We don't have anybody at Real Madrid. We don't have any Barcelona. We don't have anybody at PSG. We don't have anybody at Manchester City. I hate to even say Manchester City's a top team, but to be honest, to acknowledge things, you got to say it. It's encouraging, though, that we got that kid from Philadelphia Union's academy that just went to Manchester City, so maybe we are continuing to progress. But, I mean, we should never there were things I disagree with that Greg did in this tournament. Should not have been starting Tyler Adams. If you can't play a full 90, you can't start. You can't go into a game knowing you're going to have to pull a guy out at some point in time. So his performances didn't justify him being out there. Like if he's like such a key player that even 45 minutes you need it, I didn't see that in Tyler Adams in this tournament. So I wouldn't have started Tyler Adams if he couldn't play the full 90. The going so defensive when we went down a man in the Panama game, it was too quick to park the bus there. So, but those were issues Greg had. But I mean, I looked at it and I was kind of like, we've overhyped this roster. We've overhyped these players. They're good. But I mean, go back to like 2000, 10, 2002, 2014. Remember when it was like, oh, Full America, Brian McBride, Eddie Johnson, Clint Dempsey. Guess where two of our best players are at right now? Still at Fulham. Tyler Adams, Bournemouth. Brendan Aronson, some lower division team in the Bundesliga. Chris Richards, Crystal Palace. So at least he's in the Premier League. I mean, but Crystal Palace, Bournemouth. Once again, it's not Manchester United, it's not Manchester City, it's not Chelsea, it's not Liverpool, Barcelona, Real Madrid. They're on better teams. They're in better squads. We got more players that are consistently playing in Europe, but I mean, it's not like they're on like the best teams in the world or anything crazy like that. I think the expectations got too high for this group, and the players haven't progressed. I mean, I don't know how much you can blame Greg Berhalter for the fact that the team is not any better in 2024 than it was in the 2022 World Cup, because the national team, you get the players, like 4 or 5 times a year, something like that, for like only like a week and a half. How much can you really do to contribute to the players' growth, the players' development, in that window? That's, to me, that's more on their clubs. That's more on them as individuals to find ways to get better. Like I said, I think Greg will get fired, but I do think a lot of people need to open their eyes that the expectations were too high. The standard for this group was too high. Because, I mean, the other thing I kind of started thinking about was like, watching the games, we found it hard to create scoring chances, but we were playing like, more progressive, more modern soccer. We weren't like parking the bus. We weren't sitting deep. We weren't trying to counterattack that much. We were, trying to keep the ball, trying to progress the ball forward. We just couldn't find those ways through. That was ultimately the problem, was just not finding ways to turn possession into scoring chances. And I'm almost like, now that we're kind of like pulling back the curtain saying maybe this group, maybe this team isn't as talented as we thought they were, or as we were led to believe they were, maybe we need some of that old U.S. fire, just like, the 2002 team. That team, Clint Mathis, Frankie Hayduck, I'm dating myself here because a lot of people watching this probably weren't even born in 2002, Brian McBride. That wasn't a talented, highly skilled, tactically sound group. That was just a bunch of dogs. There was just dudes going out there, fighting for everything, going for everything, didn't care what the expectations were, what people thought about them. They were just going out there and fighting for everything. And we don't really have that anymore. We're just kind of playing, your basic kind of move the ball around. Nobody's open. Kick it back to the left back. Swing it back to the center back type soccer, which, that's modern soccer. That's the way you're supposed to play. But maybe now that if we're recognizing we don't have the talent to really go toe-to-toe with teams playing that way, maybe we don't do that. Maybe we bring back some of the old scrappy underdog, fight for every ball mentality, like the Clint Dempsey's of the world. Clint Dempsey, I don't think anybody would ever, like, if you broke down Clint Dempsey, you'd ever go like, this was a tactically, physically, athletically gifted player with just so many great skills. He was just a dog. He was just a warrior. It's a stupid phrase that's coming to the world of sports. It's got that dog in you. But I mean, I don't think this U.S. group, to use that phrase, has the dog in them like the way the old U.S. teams from like 2002 to 14 did. These are just like, Chris, pass the ball around, do your best, play in the system type players. I mean, Gio Reyna, he's bounced back from all that crap that happened in the World Cup. But I mean, how soft was he before that for all that crap that he went through? All right, I think I kind of said most of my piece here, so I'm just going to catch up on the chat real quick, see what we've had in there. Joseph says, it's been 6 years, time for a reset. Let this golden generation get coached by a different mind, new strategy for once, and see what they're made of. Yeah, I think there's going to be a change. I said that. I think at this point in time, we've seen the change, but I'm tired of this group being called the golden generation because, I mean, and I tweeted this the other day because I was actually, while I was watching Belgium, I was like, has a golden generation, has any team that's ever had the golden generation ever actually been good? Like Belgium's golden generation, just the golden generation of Belgium. They're not going to win anything. They just lost Euros. You're not going to see Kevin De Bruyne, probably not Lukaku back around the next World Cup. So this golden generation for Belgium didn't really do anything. I feel like there was another one that was in like the last little era that had a golden generation. I think England probably is. Some of their people have probably used golden generation for their team and they're not doing anything. Watch them just win this whole Euros, playing just the worst, ugliest, most abysmal soccer possible. Yeah, I don't know that a golden generation has ever won anything. And while this is, like I said, probably the most talented group the U.S. has had, I don't know that we can really say it's a golden generation because I think they're just maybe slightly better than what we've had in the past. Maybe not as much better as we thought they were. US MNT fans are somewhat delusional with the recent wins over Mexico these past few years, when in reality Mexico has gotten worse over that span and haven't been this bad in a while. I think that is a great point. I think that is an absolutely great point by Jason in the chat, is that some of the skill, some of the talent, some of what the U.S. has been looked upon the last few years has been inflated by being dominant over Mexico for this last little stretch, and Mexico's pretty much terrible right now. I think we saw that Copa America. I think that also was probably an eye-opening thing, seeing Mexico and U.S. both kind of for the first time since the World Cup, really outside of the confines of CONCACAF, and both got kind of exposed. And I think it's suddenly like, wait a minute, we've been smoking Mexico. We thought that meant we were a really good team, but maybe Mexico just, is not great anymore. Great point. Richard, my friend from up north, congrats on the new manager. Thank you. He's loving the Canada team. This is Canada's golden generation. There's that golden generation term again. I think it does apply to Canada because Canada, really hasn't, outside of a player here or there, really achieved at a high level in soccer. But I mean, to the point I was making about, players playing at top teams, you've got Alphonso Davies at, Bayern, and Real Madrid's trying to get him right now. You've got Jonathan David. I think, where's he at? He's at a team in France, but there's a lot of top teams sniffing around him as well. Taj Buchanan has been on the rise, but I believe he got injured in training the other day, which is not great. Richard says, loving the Maritime Messi. Yeah, Schaffelberg. One of those kind of weird MLS News Twitter accounts tweeted out that there's starting to be interest in Schaffelberg from Europe. Don't know how much credibility there was to that account. It was one of those random ones you just see pop up sometimes, and I think the fan bases kind of get a little caught up in them when they see them. But Schaffelberg definitely is a dude who you could see, like Tosh Buchanan, like Alistair Johnson, who's at Celtic now, and potentially continues to play well. He's going to be moving up the ladder from a team like Celtic, Could definitely see a Schaffelberg European move coming up, if not this summer, maybe in the winter, maybe next summer. A lot of good stuff in that Canadian team. A lot of the U.S. fans, I think, kind of, naturally, rivalries between Mexico, U.S., and Canada but maybe it's because we have so many Canadian players at Nashville SC. I've kind of always had a soft spot for the Canadian team, and I'll be rooting for them for the rest of Copa America now that US is out. So Richard, I got your back, man. I'm right there supporting them along the way there. Anything else? Do we want to hit anything else? I think we've kind of covered everything there that I mainly wanted to talk about. Let me check here. I think there's one more thing that I maybe wanted to bring up. I got some notes here. Let me double check that. No, I think that's enough. I think we covered enough here for just a quick jump on, kind of unexpected, unplanned live stream there. It's been fun. I've enjoyed getting back into doing these live streams, even though like 2 of them, the U.S. watch-alongs, were just complete disasters for what was going on, and probably did not show my best self in those live streams with my meltdowns / reactions to those games. But appreciate everybody who jumped in the chat. Appreciate everybody who's watching this. This will be one you can probably catch on the replay too. That'll probably be a little bit evergreen because we got some time before BJ officially comes in. No, we're not getting any BJs in Nashville till at least July 22nd. Get ready for those jokes. They're going to be happening quite a bit going forward. Thanks for watching. As always, if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel and turn the bell on for notifications. Because, like this one, we popped up out of nowhere. Just came out of nowhere that BJ got hired, that we got a BJ in the middle of a Wednesday, and we needed to, I gotta stop. And we needed to chat about it. So thanks for watching, and we'll have some stuff coming up, non-Nashville SC content coming up on the channel with 4th of July. And then next week, Nashville Burger Week, one of my favorite weeks of the year. So stay tuned for more. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your bagels.